I'm at the bank making money, making moves. Machines with tools and drills, making grooves. Missions impossible.
This is Norlie. Welcome back to In the Green. We're here today with Nick Spelta. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Norlie. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So Nick, tell us, where are you right now?
Right now I'm in beautiful sunny Redondo Beach with my family and with my girlfriend too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'd love to be out at the beach right now. And tell us a little bit about what you currently do.
So I work for a part of Google. It's called Looker. We just got acquired by Google, and it focuses on data analytics for companies with modern analytics stacks.
Oh, that's a very interesting space to be in. And how's that acquisition gone?
It's gone well. You know, it's funny. We did the whole orientation where we got the Noogler hats, you know, the spinny, colorful hats, and then that was about a week before everything shut down. So we've been just onboarding and starting to merge together, you know, throughout this whole pandemic, which has come with some challenges. But overall, it's been really great. Honestly, the tech industry is really seeing a lift, and things are doing pretty well in Silicon Valley.
No, well, you're in one of the hottest spaces right now. But let me ask you, before we dive into your sector, how did you get your first start in investing?
In investing, you know, it's funny. I wasn't a big investor until right out of college. And even then, I was just dipping my toes in the water. One of my buddies was getting a start at Deutsche Bank. And I actually got into it through one of my other friends who told me about this great opportunity with a company I had never heard of before called Valiant Pharmaceutical.
Oh, Valiant. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So this was after the bubble had burst, for those who are familiar with it. If not, you should go to Dirty Money on Netflix. There's a great segment. But he swore that the CEO, Joe Papa, he knew the CEO and he was going to turn the whole company around. And so I bought a few shares and I watched them steadily decline over the next year.
And what did you do when you saw it decline? Did you stick with it or did you get out?
No, I got out. I decided I needed to do a little bit more research. And so my buddy from Deutsche was pointing me to, you know, The Intelligent Investor and those classic sort of old finance books. But then I ended up finding the Invstr app, and I've been using that ever since to gain more knowledge and expertise in the market.
Well, that's fantastic. And it's interesting how you say it was your friends that got you into the markets, because here at Invstr, we do believe it's much more fun to be investing with your friends and talking about the markets. And on Invstr, do you have other friends on the app as well? Are you in a private league?
I am. Yeah, the community aspect's really great. That's one of my favorite parts of Invstr. And I actually got into it through my girlfriend, who I couldn't even get to play fantasy football. And I looked over her shoulder one day and she was playing fantasy finance. And I was like, what is fantasy finance? She's like, oh, it's this great new app. It's called Invstr. You got to check it out. So we're in a pretty competitive league. You know, we talk a lot of smack, and everyone wants to win. So you know, it's been a good experience so far. It really has.
Well, there you go. You can get some common ground with your other half on Invstr. That's good to hear. So since your experience with Valiant, are you putting any of your real money to work in other stocks or other sectors?
I am. I'm mostly in tech, either in big tech or in sort of growth stocks, but I'm also getting into index funds and trying to do the tried and true dollar cost averaging. But the great part about Invstr is that I've been able to dip my toes into other industries that I find to be interesting, or that could really benefit when things open back up. You think about maybe a Disney or a Hilton. And just get to sort of watch the fundamentals, watch, you know, different metrics that Invstr has on, you know, volume and volatility and things like that. And so that's been a really great learning experience for me too, to sort of dip my toes outside of my industry to see what else is out there.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I want to pick your brain a little bit, given that you're in sort of the hotbed of where everything's happening in the tech world. So you're at Google now, and on the data analytics, how has this pandemic been impacting your side of the business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it really depends on who the company is, right? I mean, if you're in retail, or if you're in some of these industries that have been impacted a little bit more harshly, then you're not going to be running out to buy any solution, including analytics. But I think what's really been highlighted is the need to use data, to harness data to make decisions effectively, right? So making data informed decisions is something that you would think would be even more important right now, right? When we're in these sort of uncharted waters and things seem to be changing, week to week, month to month. So that's been our message with clients, and it's been really successful. It's helped them succeed too, because it doesn't just help analysts. It really touches all parts of the business, because everyone can use data to do their jobs more effectively.
Absolutely. So in the tech space, what are some of the superstars that you see, that you like, that you feel comfortable putting your hard-earned money to work?
Gosh, well, Snowflake is a great company, great technology. I was actually working for a company before this that shared a board with Snowflake, so we were really closely aligned. Oh yeah. And Snowflake is, they took off like a rocket, obviously, once they started trading. But
it's such a hot IPO. I must say, I did my toes in there, and I know a lot of people on Invstr were shorting it, but I actually bought some in the markets, and yeah, we'll see what happens. It may not have been a wise choice, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on your horizon, right? I mean, if your horizon's 3 to 5 years, it could live up to the hype. Yeah, right, exactly. There you go. But I think, the thing that's kind of interesting for me too is kind of the merging of the two worlds, is that I understand the technology very well. I understand the space very well, but it's all about one word, right? It's about the value. What's the value of getting into the stock, right? What's the valuation of the company? So when it was at $80 or $70 per share was the first announced price, I thought it was a good target to potentially get in. And then it went up to about 120, which was 50 times sales, which my finance friends were telling me that's pretty unheard of, but we're also in this new kind of normal, right? And so, it's something that may have seemed overvalued before might not be now. And then it jumped up to 245, and I thought it was radioactive. I couldn't touch it. But we'll see on that one. I think that I touched the radioactive. Yeah, I know. Well, me too.
More as an experiment, because I am curious to see what's going to happen. And I must say, I've watched the rise of Tesla, and I've been shocked at what the stock's done since the beginning of this year. Just totally flabbergasted. So I guess. Oh
gosh, me too.
I put caution aside and just decided to get some and see what happens to it.
I know. Well, every time it goes up more and more, I mean, it went from 300 to 600 to 900, all the way up to 2,000. I mean, at that point, even people who knew what they were talking about were saying, hey, look, I think it's overvalued, but I thought it was overvalued when it was at a third of the value that it is today. So it's kind of anyone's guess, right? And so Tesla, I think, is a great example of really, the narrative that can be sort of collectively agreed upon. So maybe Wall Street's figured it out, and Tesla's going to be the pioneer of the next 20 or 30 years in terms of renewable energy, and I don't know, the batteries and all that.
What do they think Elon Musk down in San Francisco, down in the Valley?
Oh, we love Elon Musk. No, he's I think honestly he's he's definitely a little bit of a loose cannon, right? I mean, when you tweet out that your company is probably overvalued and drops 10%, it adds some risk. But I think the world is a better place with Elon than without him. So that's,
I think the investor community would definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. Besides
now,
that,
what about this Amazon TikTok deal with Oracle? I know you had a stint at Oracle.
TikTok is it's so funny, but even my dad is on TikTok, and he's
Really?
over 60. Yeah, oh, he'll spend hours on it. I think that it's interesting, definitely with Oracle, because you at first you kind of scratch your head and you think, well, is there an integration
Right.
into Oracle's core business model?
Right.
Um, if it's a good enough deal, maybe it doesn't necessarily need to, right? Maybe it doesn't need to make sense if it's going to be just a revenue generating part of the business, and you could run ads. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the full, or I guess the most direct integration would be. I really like it for Walmart though, because I
Right.
think Walmart, they're coming out with this new competitor to Amazon Prime. And
Right.
it seems like they're poised to make a push, especially when they have COVID going for them. And it really seems to be coming down to this two-horse race in a lot of ways when you think of,
Right.
e-commerce distribution. Um, and so I think for Walmart, it's great because you could just, run a ton of ads and really start to attract this younger market, to maybe pull some people away from Amazon, which is actually my favorite, tech stock, which is not an unpopular opinion, but they're so well diversified, and they
I
seem to
love
be.
Amazon. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean,
one of my top performers this year.
and they're at the top of everything that they do. I mean, you think about, streaming, they've got Prime Video, but really the most interesting one for me being in the tech space is AWS. I mean,
Right.
they bet on cloud,
Right.
10 years ago, and the bet's really paid off, right? They sprinkled a bunch of acorns, they let people swipe a credit card, but it was really a free trial for a year. Hey,
Right.
put your data in Amazon, and those acorns are growing into oaks. So I think the rest of the tech world is playing catch up, but it's really crazy to see how well diversified and just how well they perform too in each of these different parts of the economy that they play in.
No, absolutely. I mean, being out in the tech hub of the world, is there concern about regulation coming into potentially a new, well, the Democrats taking over and this new election coming up? Is there worry what's going to happen to tech getting broken up, or do they see it as something potentially positive?
It's a good question. I think that when you think about the main proponents of breaking up big tech, I think of
Right.
Elizabeth Warren personally, right? So a little
Right.
bit more progressive. I think Biden and the Democrats' strategy right now is to play things closer to the center, right? Because
Right.
they see an opportunity to come in as the voice of reason versus Trump. And I think that's their strategy, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. I think that their idea is really, let's not mess this up more than
Right.
let's really inspire a lot of hope. But I do think, regulations aside, I do think that there's definitely some valid risk with the election coming up, especially with two major considerations. The first one is mail-in ballots calling into question the legitimacy of the election. That's not my viewpoint, but that argument's going to be made whether
Of course.
whoever wins or loses, right? It's going to, I see, some kind of either side contesting the results. But the second part that's interesting is that now with the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which is really a tragedy,
Right.
if Republicans do move forward with confirming a conservative justice, then that could have implications for the election, like it did in 2000 with the hanging chads and Bush Gore. So
Right.
there is some uncertainty there. Whether you think it's a buying opportunity or a valid reason to keep your chips on the sidelines throughout it is, I would say, just more of a subjective viewpoint at this point.
No, those are great thoughts. Nick, any trends that you think we should be looking for in the tech world, or any smaller growth names that you've got your eye on that we should start looking at?
Yeah, there are some that I think would be worth looking at, and again, it's really about the value, right? It comes back
Right.
to, you have some of these stocks already, sort of hit their peak. But what I invested in a few months back was Fastly, which I thought was interesting, Cloudflare.
Right.
I don't think right now, I don't think you can go wrong with the FANG stocks though too, with getting into big tech.
So you're sticking with big tech.
I am. I'm sticking with big tech. I think there's a ton of diversification, a ton of benefit from you know, the fallout from COVID. I think that there are legitimate concerns too, right? The U.S. relation with China, and just, you know, the way that valuations have sort of ballooned up. I think as long as the Fed keeps printing, and as long as quantitative easing is still a major play for a lot of governments, I think the slogan, and I was sort of slow to take to this back in March and April,
Right.
is don't fight the Fed, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they're just, you know, while they're pouring money in, I think you gotta you know, keep dancing. But you know, that's just my viewpoint on it.
Well, Nick, thank you. We loved having you here today, and enjoy the beach, and we will see how tech continues out for the rest of the year.
Of course. Thanks for having me on, Norley. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Making money, making moves. Machines with tools and drills, making grooves. Missions impossible.
I am not a financial advisor, and my comments should never be taken as financial advice. Investments come with risks, so always do your research and analysis beforehand.
Loud.